Danny, did he cooperate too much?
In a way, any DUI defendant has to consider what outcome they want to see. And in Tiger Woods' case, he probably doesn't care about a license suspension. He doesn't care as much about a conviction. He's got to worry about his brand. And even if he refuses to conduct field sobriety tests, and he refuses the breath test, and he refuses the urine test, he will be automatically suspended for 1 year in Florida. Balance that against the reading of an often unreliable urine test for drugs, and consider that what that would do to his brand. Perhaps Tiger would have been better off had he refused all testing. And Mark O'Mara will not disagree with me that he does not need to submit to field sobriety testing, which is fraught with peril, as is urine testing.
Mark O'Mara, if he'd have been able to call you miraculously before the police arrived, what would have been your counsel?
I would have told him, as Danny would have, do not take the field sobriety test. And the simple reason is there's no penalty for failure to take the field sobriety test, the finger to nose, hand to heel to toe. And the reason why is because they are designed to fail. They're designed to show impairment. So don't take the field sobriety test to anyone out there. However, in this particular case, and Danny's right, you got to look at the brand he's trying to protect. There's no question Tiger was getting arrested for DUI. He was obviously impaired. He was driving the car. You don't have to be driving down the road. You have to be in what we call actual physical control. Keys in hand, keys in ignition, car on, good enough for a DUI. But the real question is, should he have taken the breath test? We know that's an easy answer. Yes, he knew he had no alcohol in his system. Breath test only determines alcohol. Easy solution, take the test. The real question is, do you take the urinalysis? A little bit more complicated, but I disagree with Danny, and here's why. He knew he was on the prescription drugs. Telling them through his urinalysis that those were the only drugs he was on was good, and he also doesn't suffer the suspension of his license. While you're right, he probably could have a driver, didn't have one that night, but the reality is it is still a sanction in Florida, and should he ever have a second DUI arrest, a second refusal is a criminal offense, so don't set yourself up for it. And in the court of public opinion, he gets to tell everybody, mea culpa, I'm really sorry, I was on only prescribed medications, had no idea what they would do to me, and I've cooperated fully. And that full cooperation is what's going to save his brand.
Hey, Danny, I want you to respond to Mark and also to explain to the audience, because I'll bet many associate DUI only with booze and probably are surprised that you could have no alcohol in your system and still run afoul of a DUI standard.
I cannot tell you how many times this week people said, hey, Tiger didn't really have a DUI because he was on prescription drugs and a doctor essentially gave him permission. Let me disabuse you of that misconception. You can absolutely get a DUI for prescription medication. In fact, I would wager that the majority of DUIDs, or driving under the influence of drug cases, are prescription opiate cases in our modern day, where almost everybody appears to be on opiates in one form or another. And that's what I think this case will show here. You know, when you think about what the decision Tiger had to make in consenting to the urine test, those tests will only show the presence of the drug in the system, the metabolites. And if you have drug use for a therapeutic reason, it may still show up, even if he didn't take Vicodin, even if he took it the day before or that morning. Now, the reality is you look at the video, and it's very likely that he would be convicted of impairment, just based on observations. And that's why the law works. Even if you refuse all testing, an officer can still testify as to your impairment as a DRE, a drug recognition expert. It's like they magically put on their expert hats to testify against you. So the law works, even if he had refused. But consider this. In the coming weeks, we will get a test back, and that will show, the urine test, the presence of these metabolites, and Tiger will be left arguing whether or not he took those drugs that day, hours before, or the week before. Whereas had he refused, he could simply create some narrative of, look, too much Mountain Dew and some Robitussin and gee, mea culpa. That way he might have safeguarded his brand just a little more.
Mark, reply to Danny and tell me, this is your state. Where is this going in the big picture?
Well, first of all, I understand what Danny's saying. However, the Robitussin argument, the May couple would not have worked because we all would have known how artificial and fake that would have been. Now he can argue with the reality of what he was on. So there's that. What's going to happen with this case? First offense DUI. Had he refused, he probably would not have available to him what we have and what Palm Beach County has, which is a DUI diversion program. So if you're guilty of a DUI, the diversion program is a wonderful alternative to going through the court system. It literally diverts you out of the criminal justice system. You do most of what you would have to do for regular DUI, the school, the 50 hours community service, pay a fine, stay alcohol-free for a while, but then the charges get dropped. So that's available to him primarily because he didn't refuse and also because the circumstances are not aggravating. So there's that. But I'll tell you, there may be a better solution. Because he was so cooperative and because he was only on prescription medications, he may very well have an opportunity to work out an even better program with the prosecutor, what we call a deferred prosecution program. Do some work up front. Do some PSAs, for example. Tiger Woods still has a name out there. Do some PSAs for the horrible abuse of opioids and how easy it is to abuse them. He didn't do it on purpose, but yet he was DUI. And he can make this a positive result for himself, more importantly, for the rest of us who have to learn how not to be DUI on prescription drugs. And it could all have a much more positive ending for him criminally. He's already got a great resolution for his driver's license because he's not automatically going to lose it because of a refusal. And again, he's going to walk out of here with a brand much better intact than if he tries an argument of you can't prove it, so go ahead and try.
Danny, quickly, the Nick Nolte question. To smile or not to smile for the mugshot?
I've come around on this issue, Michael. I believe you should smile. I believe you should, if you can do it, if you're turning yourself in, put on a tie, put on a jacket, put on a big smile. That way, that picture will be forever associated with like a yearbook picture or something else, and no one can really tell that you're that miserable about being arrested. That's my take.
Mark and Danny, thank you for being here. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Thanks, Michael.